You're listening to the Meet the Farmers podcast with me, your host, Ben Eagle. Please remember to subscribe to the show wherever you are listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is episode 288 of Meet the Farmers, and I'm your host, Ben Eagle. Today, we are diving into an incredible story, and it really is, of endurance, resilience, and really getting behind the agricultural community. Joining me is Hugh Addison from Cumbria, who, with his sister Alex, is gearing up for quite an amazing endurance challenge, which Hugh and Alex have called the Borderline Challenge. This September, they will cycle, swim and run a staggering 550 kilometres from Sligo in Ireland to the mouth of the Tyne in England, using nothing but human power. And there are also a number of others who will be joining them for stretches of the challenge. And as you'll hear today, they're actually inviting any of you as well. If you want to join them for any stretch, please get in touch with Hugh. This isn't just a test of physical and mental grit, though. It's also about raising vital awareness and funds for the Royal Agricultural Benevolent Institute, RABI, a charity supporting the mental health and well-being of those in rural and farming communities, which I'm sure many of you will know well. So today we're going to hear from Hugh about why he and Alex have taken on the challenge. We'll hear about how they're training for it and their personal connection to the cause they're supporting. We're going to look at the highs and lows they anticipate, from cycling across Ireland's rugged landscapes to braving the icy North Channel swim, particularly the part of this challenge that made my eyes go up, and also running the length of Hadrian's Wall, because why not? Let's get into it. Hugh, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Ben. Good to be here.
So, what inspired you to take on this challenge? Because even just thinking of the route as well. Obviously, you're from Cumbria, so that's part of looking across the map. But what inspired you to do it?
I think it's just been like a constant elevation of different sort of activities. So I've always been like quite interested in endurance activities. It's been one of the only things that I've sort of been able to look at sportingly. My brother was an amazing rugby player. He's had a successful career as a professional rugby player. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch or do anything. The only thing that I could do was just run for very long periods of time. So I sort of lent into that over like my older life. So a few years ago, I was working out in Paris for a piece of work, and after that I decided to cycle home. I built a bike up there, and then I cycled the whole way back to Buckinghamshire with that. So that was like I think it was about 250 kilometers, that whole thing. And I was like, okay, that's it. So immediately after you do something like that, you think about what the next challenge is and then the next challenge. And anyway, a few years ago, I started to get into triathlon a little bit more, as we'll probably speak about later. There was a bit of an episode for me, and like coming out of that, I was keen to do something like quite significant. So myself and 3 friends did a half Ironman. So that was great. There was a lot of training involved. There was again a great opportunity to sort of push yourself. And then over the past few years, I've been thinking, oh, well, what comes next? How do you sort of like build from that? So there's a great challenge that is fairly well known called the Arch to Arc, which goes from London to Paris. So you run from London to Dover, swim the English Channel, and then cycle to Paris. So that has similarities to the Borderline Challenge, but it didn't really have much of a personal connection for me. So I read about the North Channel, which is the body of water between Belfast and Stranraer. It's what the ferry takes, basically. I took that ferry route every single summer as a kid. My mum's from Fermanagh. So we had to like go over there. We had to hike the whole way through well, we had to take this long drive from Penrith up to Stranraer every summer and then go across that body of water. So there was a personal connection there. So I was like, oh, that's quite important. And then it just started to sort of build out from that. So I was like, could you actually build a triathlon into this? So the cycle part, that felt fine. So yeah, we'll cycle across the whole of Ireland. We'll get there, we'll swim. And then on the other side, Hadrian's Wall, I've been into like ultra running a little bit as well. So I've done a few, like growing up in the Lake Districts, fell running's a huge thing. And I'd always wanted to run Hadrian's Wall. So there's sort of like two elements there, and we just had to link it with a cycle. So after that, this 4-day challenge sort of appeared, and yeah, the Borderline Challenge was born. And the sort of like nice sentimental part of it is that it connects multiple like family connections as well. I mentioned about the ferry crossing, but also we'll be passing through Enniskillen and Sligo, which is where Mum and her family are all from, and many are still based around in farming communities over in Fermanagh and Monaghan. And then the latter stage is obviously Carlisle is like my neck of the woods. That's where home is. And ultimately finishing in Newcastle, which is where I studied, and Alex studied too. So we both spent a significant part of our life there, and it passes through Hexham, which is where, again, we have family connections there through the auction mart at Hexham. So it sort of links all of these little bits together. So there was definitely an emotional part. So that was like, well, this sounds good. I can do this. Just need to do a bit of training.
Just a bit. Does Alex have any history in endurance sports or outdoor challenges?
I think Alex, by her own admission, would say that she's competitive. I think growing up with two older brothers has probably elevated that. So last year, Alex sort of put the challenge to me with this run across the Lake District. So we did the Lakes Traverse, which is a 100-kilometer run from St Bees to Shap. And Alex suddenly put it on me. I was like, do you want to do this? And I was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll do that. And I'd sort of said to her at the time, it's like, well, I'll get you back. And this was getting her back. So,
So take us through the training, because I mean, this challenge, as you've said, so it involves cycling, swimming, and running. So pure triathlon, just in a slightly different way. So how are you training for each discipline?
Yeah, so the running I feel fairly comfortable with, so I'm just trying to like get the distance up really with that. As I say, I have done some longer runs in the past, so that feels like a fairly logical stretch. But just at the moment, I'm aiming to run about 50 kilometers a week. That's also I'm doing the Edinburgh Marathon in May, so that's been a good motivator to try and train up for that. I cycle most places anyway, if I can do. So I've just been like trying to do bits of cycling. I actually, I bought a cargo bike so my dog Bree can come with me on some of the training, which is a bit ridiculous. We did a good 60k ride with her in the front last weekend. The big challenge has been swimming. I'm not a natural swimmer. When I did that triathlon that I mentioned, I did breaststroke for a good part of it. So that's not an option for this. So I'm trying to swim about 3 or 4 times a week and aiming to like do about 10,000 meters. So the fundamental aim that I've broken it down to is just trying to make it fit into life as much as possible and trying to just do something active each day. So the aim is to like do about an hour's activity each day and just hope that builds up enough. So yeah, we'll see. At the moment, that's just about proving sustainable, but we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely incredible. And even just this training process is inspiring. So, I mean, the swim, let's say that. So you say you're not a natural swimmer, but I mean, give listeners an idea of what the North Channel swim is about, because this isn't just any swim. It's known as one of the toughest open water swims in the world.
Yeah, it's a bit daunting. So the North Channel, the official route stems from Donaghadee in near Belfast, and it finishes in Portpatrick near Stranraer. So the distance between those 2 points is about 31 kilometers, which is more or less the same as the English Channel. So there's a good parallel there. Except it's a bit colder than the English Channel. So we're doing it in September, which is about as warm as it will ever get, and still it's going to be probably somewhere between 12 and 15 degrees, which is pretty cold. And if you're a complete purist, you're not allowed a wetsuit. So we're trying to justify not actually wearing wetsuits because of everything else that's going on. But yeah, it's a bit of an undertaking. So normally you can expect a team, like we're doing it as part of a relay. So each of us will do about a quarter of that distance each. We've got two friends who are joining us to do it, but it's still going to be about 4 hours in the water for each individual. So we're probably expecting to do it in about 14 to 15 hours, depending on pace, depending on times, depending on weather. That particular body of water, it's got this reputation as like the toughest of the Ocean 7 swims because the weather is famously bad. That's Northern Ireland doesn't have a reputation for good weather, whatever time of year it is. The sea is cold. And just to add a little bit more, it's full of lion's mane jellyfish. So yeah. I mean, who wouldn't want to do it?
Are you going to have some sort of support crew?
Yeah, we are planning to. So I think that the main support crew is obviously having people who are doing it alongside us. So there's Alex and myself. For the swim, we've also got Will Sorday, he's a sheep farmer up in the Welsh borders, and Matt Blott, who isn't a farmer but does claim that his dad's place has olive trees on it. So in Italy, but I think that's probably a bit of a stretch. I don't think that's really accepted by the folks up at home. But we also have like some willing like family members who've sort of said, oh yeah, well we'll set aside a week in September to come and help you. On the boat we were allowed one other person. So one of Alex's good friends is a nutritionist, so she's been giving us some really good tips, and she's keen to get involved for that. And we also have another friend who's a physio over in Newcastle, so he's offered to sort of come and just massage us through the trip across Hadrian's Wall. So it's been amazing actually, the response from people to actually like say, oh yeah, I'll come out and help you along with it. So that's been great.
Yeah, a real community effort. And,
Totally.
I mean, talking of community as well, you are raising awareness for, and money hopefully as well, for the RABI. This is all about raising awareness of mental health in the farming community. Why this cause? Why is this important for you?
Yeah, so we come from a very strong farming background, a very strong community generally. Both mum and dad are from farming families on both sides of the channel, and farming has just been in my blood for years. Since I was born, I've been like utterly like passionate about it. That being said, it's not my day job right now. There is a sort of a degree of like mental health that goes with that. So the reason for choosing this is that I think mental health in agriculture is something that I think is underserved, and I think it's something that we're particularly bad at, and it's something that's becoming more challenging with economic, political, social elements that are combining to make a bit of a perfect storm around agriculture that is making things increasingly hard in what's already an insanely tough industry to be in. I mean, one of the things that I've been reflecting on when I've been doing this training is, it's bloody tough getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to motivate yourself to go for a swim. But it's like, this is just for 6 months that we've got to do it. If you're heading out at 6 a.m. earlier every morning to go and milk cows, rain or shine, like that's a bloody tough job, and it's something that like what we're doing pales into insignificance compared to like that. Resilience is just on another level. My own experience of it, so as a family, we have experienced like the shadow of a suicide in the family in our parents' generation, and that has been something that's been quite hard to see as we've grown up. And I have had a bit of a tough time of it in the past as well. So I'm a mechanical engineer by profession. Dad encouraged us to get off the farm, and then if we still had a desire to come back to it, to maybe look at that further down the line. So when I was 18, I went away to Newcastle Uni, studied there, and I've stayed in mechanical engineering since then. But I've always been like encouraged to like come back and like get involved with the farm. So during like university summer holidays or like during any break, I would be up at home milking, like getting involved with the farm, silaging whenever was needed. And I think I've always had a desire to get back into it. I've had a desire to like get away from the computer and actually doing something physical. So I think one of the toughest points from a mental health perspective was COVID. Obviously, that was something which really inflamed a lot of areas, and I could see the strain that was having on my dad. And I was 30-ish around that time. So I was like, well, this is maybe the moment when I look to like make more of a step to like take on the mantle at home, to like get involved with that. So in 2021, I moved back up from Cambridge to Cumbria and got involved with things. And I basically just set myself on a course to just burn myself out, and just it wasn't
I've
good.
been on that same
Yeah.
path.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. You're like, I think I can take this. And then you take on something more. Yeah, I think I can take this. And then you like, nah, that's too much. So I basically I had a year up in Cumbria, and I had always sort of thought of myself as quite a resilient person, someone who's just like able to like keep on like taking bits. And then a couple of like elements just fell apart. Like my relationship suddenly ended, which was a huge blow, and then that sort of initiated a crumble of other parts. So, and I just realized just I had taken far too much on. I was working a full-time job. At the weekends, I was working on the farm. I was working on the farm in the evenings. I also started a yogurt business as well as like as a sort of like hope for the future about what we could do with the farm. And you just realize just how easily you can make life very difficult for yourself. And I think in farming, it's something that for a long time, I was suffering in silence with that. And it wasn't really until I could take a step back and think, wow, I've got myself into a really bad place, that I was like, yeah, how do you get through this? And I think for farmers generally, like there is an element of loneliness that goes with the role, that means that you are sort of like away from things. I think over the past, well, certainly over my lifetime, the social interactions that go with farming have become fewer and further between. Generally, there's smaller teams that are working on the farms, and the opportunity to go to like an auction mart to actually converse with people, to just complain about the weather or whatever it might be at that point, isn't really there because of like things like TB, or the fact that you've got direct payment approaches. Like the supermarkets are probably buying directly off farm, so you haven't got that part. Even in the summer, a big part of our childhood growing up was showing pedigree Simmental cattle. You'd be taking them to all the shows across Cumbria and Northumberland, but that doesn't happen anymore. You just saw like fewer and fewer people coming to show their animals. And then with the advent of TB, that's just stopped completely. So a lot of those, that social fabric which underpins like the countryside and agriculture, just have fallen away, which has been really hard to see. And I've seen that impact on my dad, which was one of the main reasons for me actually coming back home in the first place. Was you've got a guy who's approaching 60, all of his peers who aren't in agriculture are thinking about retiring, and you're like, oh, yeah, you need to step on. But the reality is, in agriculture, my dad, he's 62 now, is the average. Like that's madness. And you've got so few young people who are coming, which I think has its own way on mental health, because there's just not the vision of succession, and that's increasingly uncertain today. So that's a very long-winded way of saying that I think there are lots of challenges around mental health in agriculture, and we just need to start speaking about it. And the RABI, a fantastic resource, which is promoting the awareness of mental health, but also is giving some like good solutions to that. So it offers its phone line, it offers different services to support farmers and their families and the communities with mental health issues as they arise. And beyond the RABI, there's lots of more resources which are starting to pop up. It's been like good to see like Jeremy Clarkson's Hawkston sort of like text line. I think that's popped up recently, but also like the longer term Yellow Wellies, the RSABI in Scotland, and Farmstrong in Scotland as well. There's been some really good moves to it, but RABI just stuck out for me as just a real great place to like just try and raise money for. So that was the main inspiration behind this.
That was so well put. And yeah, thank you for being so open about your own experience as well. And we're definitely all massively behind you on this. And yeah, please, this is just I'm probably going to do this several times, listeners, but just to spur on, please do sponsor the team. I mean, Hugh, when it comes to sponsorship, we'll say this at the end as well, but how can people support?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ben. So we have a website. So if you can pop along to theborderlinechallenge.co.uk, or on Instagram, just the Borderline Challenge. We've got links for donation there. So you can donate, and that goes straight to RABI. So your funds will be put to good use straight away. So yeah, we're really wanting to like push as much fundraising as we possibly can do. Additionally, if you happen to have a business, or if you just want to like give some like direct sponsorship, at the moment we're self-funding the entire efforts, which includes like the support boats across the channel, which is more expensive than I'd expected. Kit is all that's it, like kit, accommodation. It's all of these things come at an expense. So if you are keen, like that is really, really valuable for us, because it just allows this whole thing to happen, and it just helps us along the way. So if you are entwined, we've had some really good support from local businesses up in Cumbria. So Dodd and Co accountants have already like put a backing behind us. Cranston's Butchers have also offered sausage rolls, which is equally appreciated. If you have a food business, give us food and farming, and like, go together. So like we're just keen for all of that. Yeah, the support of like a lot of local Cumbrian businesses has been great. But if you can, that would be hugely appreciated too. Equally, if you do fancy getting your trainers on or getting on a bike, we are looking for people to come along and join us on the cycle leg from Sligo to Donegal, the cycle leg from Portpatrick to Gretna, and then the run from Gretna to Tyne. We're not saying do the whole thing, but if you want to come along for any leg, we are going to try and break those bits down. So yeah, it would be great to get as many people involved as we can.
Just tell us those dates as well.
So there is a bit of variability, so I'm sorry about that, but we need to rely on the weather to get across the channel. But in theory, our swim window is between the 14th and the 18th of September. So ideally, we'll be kicking off on the 13th of September, swimming the channel on the 14th, and then we'll be rocking up in Newcastle on the 16th of September. So that's what we're looking for. So I appreciate that's a bit vague, but if you are keen and able, we'd love to have you along.
In terms of you personally, what do you hope to take away from this challenge?
So I think there's a huge. I would obviously love to do the physical challenge. I think that's something that I really thrive on, is being able to sort of prove to yourself that your body is capable of doing something a bit daft like this. I think that's something that I've personally got a lot of gratification from. As I mentioned, I went through my tough points a couple of years ago and was not in a good place. And I think actually like getting active and proving to yourself that you actually were capable of doing things that were somewhat exceptional was really good. So like, that's something for my own like personal achievement I'm looking to get. But I think beyond that, it's the gratification out of actually giving something back to a community that's given a huge amount to me as well. So I think as I mentioned, I've always been around the farming community. And it feels like I've been like looking in a little bit, particularly over the past few years when I've just been away working on other things. So my hope is that I can actually get a little bit closer to a cause that I really do care about through this. And I'd ideally like this to be the first of a few challenges that maybe we do. And if the RABI are keen to support us with that, that would be great. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be anything in the short term, but I think it's just, yeah, like establishing that link. And I mean, my dream for this would be like if the borderline could become something that we can actually expand to, like providing its own mental health support. So we'll see how that goes, but that's certainly an ambition.
And for this challenge in particular, what is driving you to the finish line? Obviously, there's going to be all the backers behind you. There's going to be you're going to be thinking of all that work that you've done towards it. Is there anything in particular that you're going to be holding in your mind throughout?
Yeah, I think. Well, one, I need to meet my sister. I need to get ahead of her. So obviously that's a big part of it. But I think the second thing is again that mental, that sort of pride thing. That they're probably, without going into like the psychology of it all, you sort of like doing parts of this to make your own parents like happy and things. So I think one of the main drivers is my dad. Really, is like he's a hugely resilient person. And like through the last couple of years, he's been through a huge amount himself. And he's just got through every challenge. And I think part of this is probably on a very superficial level, just proving that like you can be that resilient too, and just trying to demonstrate that. So yeah, I think that's certainly a motivation, is just to demonstrate that too.
Gosh, what an inspiring episode. I'm raring to go for the day.
Cheers, Ben.
Thanks, Hugh. We're gonna close things up. But before we do, there's always two questions I ask everyone when they come on the show. And feel free to give these a slant towards either the challenge or mental health or physical health or whatever you'd like. But the first is, if you had a message for the public, the great British public, what would it be?
I think at a time like this, it's try like get behind farmers. Like the last few years have been really, really tough for agriculture as a whole. We've had like the uncertainty that's been brought about by Brexit, and just like working out how that goes, the subsequent removal of some subsidies and the uncertainty that comes with the current government, I think hasn't helped things. But also variations in prices, variations in succession planning. All of these things just add to a huge amount of stress. So for the public, I'd say like get involved, speak to your local farmers, speak to your food producers, buy local if you can do. Like I think one of the best connections you can possibly be is like going along to farm shops. I know sometimes they can be expensive, but actually like buying directly is a huge thing. It provides such a boost for somebody who has actually gone to the effort of creating that food. They've gone and set their own thing up. That is such a tangible link to the countryside, and the people who are involved with it. It's the biggest pat on the back you can give. So yeah, buy local and support your farmers.
And your message to farmers?
So I guess on the mental health part of things, like if you are struggling, you're not alone. Speak to people. You certainly are in a strong position than you ever think you are. I think farmers deserve a huge amount of respect for the work that they just go out and do each day, and just know that you aren't alone in this. There are people who around you who can directly support you. If you are really struggling, get in touch with the RABI, get in touch with all of these fantastic resources that are around you. They do exist, and there's no stigma around talking about your mental health. Get out and talk to people, because it's the best therapy you can do.
Amazing, Hugh. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for telling us all about the challenge. Once again, listeners, please get behind this challenge. Get behind Hugh and Alex and the rest of the team. It's great stuff they're doing here on so many levels, but also just physically. I honestly, I can't get out of my head that swim. That's quite something. So yeah, Hugh, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about it.
Thanks a lot, Ben. I'll speak to you on the other side and let you know how that swim's gone. So,
I'd love that, actually. Yeah, come back on when it's done.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, very happy to. Yeah. Just tell us the date.
Yeah, let's get that in the diary. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. And once again, please support Hugh and Alex. We will be back next week. But for now, I'm Ben Eagle. This has been Meet the Farmers. And thank you very much for listening.